Just hearing Bill talk, it was really, really good. Him talking about rocky times and how that it can strengthen your faith. And this is probably one of the rockiest times in my life, and how it brought me closer to God. So when I was growing up, I grew up in a Catholic family, not strongly Catholic, like pretty much went to church, Christmas, Easter, that's pretty much it. But went to a Catholic school. So learned a lot about the Bible through Catholic school, which is really, really good. But not some of the questions I had, particularly around Jesus, didn't really get explained well enough to me. But I had I loved God. And so especially as a little kid, I can remember times where, like really little, like probably about 5 or 6, I'd have a hard day or something, and I'd go at the church, outside the church, they have those little statues of Jesus and Mary and stuff. And at that age, I remember sitting there, kneeling down, almost like the little picture, praying to God, not really understanding everything. He was really important to me when I found stuff difficult. And then as I got older, I became a teenager, and a lot of those values and things that you believed when you're younger sort of go out the window, and God takes a back seat. And so my main focus became friends and girls, was another really important thing to me. And I had a picture in my head that one thing I really wanted out of life was to get married, have children, quite a simple, nothing spectacular. I didn't have dreams of traveling around the world. My thing was just to have a family and kids and a white picket fence and everything. And so what happened is, I sort of basically, one of my things was just to find a girl, and that was my focus. So I ended up getting into quite a few relationships with girls, and then eventually I ended up with one of my late teens, early 20s, that lasted 9 years. And I put all my life into that relationship. So all my friends that I did have around school, they also took a back seat. I caught up with them a little bit. Really, I spent most of my time with her, and all my friends were actually her friends. So that was pretty much it. I just lived through her, type of thing. And then what happened is, in my late 20s, we split up and broke up. And because of that, I was pretty much left by myself, because all our friends were more her friends than mine. So I was left by myself. And so I became really upset. I felt really, really lonely. And so at that time, I was able to think back and call on God. So I spent a lot of time by myself, and a lot of time on getting on my bicycle and riding. I lived in Birkenhead, and I'd ride to Chelsea Sugar Works, and I'd spend a lot of time there praying to God and saying, God, help me. I'd be in tears. I was just an absolute wreck, and I just felt really, really lonely. And it felt like it went on for years. It probably didn't. It was probably only 6 months. I don't know. But at that time, it felt like a really, really long time. And I got to a point where suicide became an option to me. And I even got to a point where I was thinking about attempting it. And God showed up in a way to help me think, and sort of pulled at some heartstrings about my future, and made me think about having kids. And it made me think, actually, I need to be around. So I just carried on praying and just stuck in there. And around that time, I had I was working in a workshop, an auto electrical workshop, and in there was actually Becky's uncle. He owned the workshop, and through them I met Becky's cousin, and also they had like a youth group that had grown into their 20s, and they all hang out together. And they were really, really accommodating. Especially, it was weird to me, someone who wasn't a part of a church or the Christian kind of life, but they welcomed me into their group. And at the same time, I also had another friend of mine that I knew from school, who invited me to hang out with him, and he was also part of a church. And so I ended up hanging out with them, and they had lots of friends that were Excel students, so they're into music, and I got into quite a bit of, I did lots of karaoke with them, with some pretty talented singers and musicians, and even did some little recordings and music recordings and singing in studios. And that was great fun. But over that time, it made me, I just seemed a lot happier. And it was a road that, a group of people and a lifestyle that I wasn't really interested in, and I wouldn't have even thought of being a part of, but it became pretty much my life, because it was my friends, it was who I hang out with. And so I did that, hang out with them for quite a while, and that was really, really good. And I remember going to a Christmas in the Park, and there was a guy called Aaron Ironside there, who was, I think, was a radio DJ, and he used to really annoy me because he had such a radio voice, like, hey, you know. And anyway, he just, one day he came up to me and he says, oh, I just feel like I've been practicing evangelism, I'll try it on you. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, what's going to happen here? And I was armed with all my knowledge that I had of Christianity, and through the Catholic Church, and we got in a really, really deep debate, and in the end, he was finding it really hard to convince me, and he kind of gave up. But he said, the whole, whatever I'm saying is not going to help, it's not going to change anything. But he goes, I can see that God's got you, because at this Christmas in the park, my two groups of friends were both, one of them was my friend and all his Christian friends, and Becky and all the youth group Christian friends. And he's like, God's got you, he's surrounded you. Whatever happens, you're going to become a Christian. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to become a Christian. But he was totally right, and I did become a Christian, obviously. Started going to a church that that Becky was going to, and that was fantastic. There's some real, I like some rough around the edge pastors, and one of them was really clean, the other was really rough around the edge plumber type pastor, and his language sometimes was quite questionable, and I really like that. And it made me feel at home. And so yeah, so that sort of pretty much helped me understand, learn, be more interested in how the Jesus factor fixed in there. And I remember being in a Catholic church and hearing about the Lamb of God, and then understanding, oh, the Lamb was the sacrifice, and Jesus wasn't just a martyr, he was actually gave himself and took my sins away, which just blew my mind at the time. And so the other thing that came out of this is, obviously, God had a plan for my life. I thought I had a plan. I thought my plan was I was going to go out and find a lady and have children, get married and settle down. But God had a plan. He had Becky there, and he knew who she was. He knew what was best for me, the right type of person. And now God's blessed me with an amazing wife, amazing kids, an amazing job that that means I can actually help and sometimes even share my faith with some of the students at the school. And I feel very blessed. But yeah, that's pretty much been my walk. And I just now love being able to share my faith with our boys, and just see them grow and understand Jesus, and knowing that if they have troubles in their life or difficulties or times, that they've got something to stand on and lean on, not just God, but also we're here to support them, and we understand that life can be really, really difficult. So yeah, and that's my testimony.